Now, just under $31 million, mobile data makes up the bulk of Safaricom's revenues in a landlocked state, bringing in roughly 7 out of every 10 US dollars that the company made in the 2024 fiscal year. Voice comes in next at roughly 18% of revenue. Total revenue for the period in Ethiopia stood at $57.4 million. Ethiopia's operations, however, it's worth pointing out, are still in their early stages. Investments in the equipment needed to keep expanding the reach of its services will slow down this fiscal year to around $351.7 million. That's 17% lower year on year. In order to break even by the 2026 fiscal year, the company aims to have at least 3,500 transmission sites and anywhere between 7 to 10 million clients by the end of this fiscal year. So earlier on, I spoke to Dilip Pal. He's the Chief Financial Officer at Safaricom. Given Ethiopia's ongoing dollar access problems and its default on a $1 billion Eurobond last December, I asked him how the company is managing its currency risk, even as it aims to break even by that 2026 fiscal year.
We said that year 4, and that year 4 is FY26. So we reaffirm that we will break even for EBITDA within FY26. So that's something I've already confirmed. Now, from a customer numbers, there are two things we are saying. You remember I said we are now in scale phase? The scale phase, the midterm outlook that you're talking about for Ethiopia is getting our infrastructure scale and getting the customer number that you're talking about, getting that scale. So for customer, we said we are about give and take 5 million customers on GSM. And on mobile money, we are recruiting. We're in recruitment phase. We recruit about 4.5 million customers, right? What we said, 10 to 15 million customers is what we believe is going to give us the scale for commercial. After that it becomes, once you get a scale, then it becomes, you increase the momentum and you get more customers.
Network effects.
The network effect starts coming in telecom, right? So 10 to 15 million is what we are saying. Now, what we have, when you have given our guidance for our EBIT, we said, so what are you talking about in FY25? So the number you're talking about is saying, 90-day customers, anything between 7 to 10 million. Yeah. So you now start beginning to see how is it making sense in terms of the customers. Now for infrastructure, we closed FY24 with 2,800 base stations. Yeah. 2,800. It may sound, it's a big country, but from a overall rollout perspective, half of Kenya. So we are about 6,000 plus base stations in Kenya. Population is bigger there, but still from a just size of the network, we are already half of Kenya. And we are saying around 4,000 base stations when you reach, we get that scale. So to enable that customer scale of 10 to 15 million customers, we believe around 4,000 plus sites.
How are you managing FX risk in Ethiopia? Because sitting from where we are, we look at Ethiopia's economy, as you said, it's huge, country of about 120 million people, but they also defaulted on their debt at the end of last year, in the middle of trying to work out a sort of loan bailout agreement with the IMF. And one of the things that we seem to see as a sticking point is the valuation of the birr. They're having some pretty serious dollar access problems in Ethiopia. So might that be an impediment to your ability to scale? Because a lot of the equipment that you need to build out these base stations, that has to be paid for in US dollars.
You're right, the news around the default, but I think looking at the amount and what we hear on the ground is like, it's more like a technical default than a real default. The amount, if I'm not mistaken, $30 million. $30 million is a very small amount in the context of the country, right? So what I hear is that's more of a technical default to get everybody get into a space where they could negotiate. That's what we heard. But that's not for me to comment on that. I think the point on dollar accessibility is something that we assessed in the very beginning. And we knew there would be an investment phase where shareholders will put in money or we get money from borrower, who will give you hard currency money, right? So that's what has happened. So far, we have put in $8.6 billion total, including the license money that we pay for $1 billion, and then $860 million for the rest of the business, right? So the breakdown of that is the cash equity came in for $1.6 billion, and then IFC has put in $100 million. I think we announced it last year. And then we have also taken equivalent of dollar, but in local currency of $134 million. So the reason what I'm trying to highlight here is that there is hard currency money coming in, but we're also maximizing the local limits, because you need to pay a lot more to the local suppliers. The other thing what we have done is, even some of the contracts, equipments you cannot build in Ethiopia, right? But there are things that we can do, which we, as we speak, we are pushing a lot more localization. For example, services. You bring in equipment, but then that still need to be installed. But who does that? The people who are on the ground, right? That you don't have to pay in hard currency. In fact, originally when you did that, there are some of those elements you found as an opportunity. There was a time when we were dealing with, say, 80-90% of our capex was mostly in foreign currency. We are moving towards more reasonable, 50-60% could be in the foreign currency. So there are efforts also to make sure that your currency requirement, hard currency requirement, goes down, as the big funding from the shareholder side will go down, and we need to be ready for that time. So we are actually making deliberate efforts. Other thing we have done is, from the very beginning, this continent has this peculiar habit. People love to have contracts in dollar. Yeah. So we knew about it, having learned it from other markets. We are very deliberate, saying no, we must have all local payments must be made in local currency. That's why the importance of local currency-based debt becomes important. That's why it becomes that you localize as much as possible.